Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the AFL Fantasy Fanatics Game Day Squad show. We're recording live on Wednesday, the 26th of March, ahead of Round 3. So this is our Round 3 preview show. I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And joining me, as always, is my co-host and one of the guys that you know at Game Day Squad, good friend of the AFL Fantasy Fanatics, is Tom from Game Day Squad. Tom, mate, how are you? How was Round 2 for you? Was it good, or did you have a couple of bullets fly your way?
Look, it was okay. It wasn't the best. I think one of the line groups I really thought I nailed was the defenders, and they sort of let me down. So if I did a little bit better in my defense, I would have had a pretty tidy round. But yeah, unfortunately, wasn't to be. In round 2 and starter, what did I have? 17th, and in classic 23rd. So very close to the sort of like that top 10 mark, but I'm really still waiting on one of those rounds where everything goes boom. So yeah, pretty stoked to be here. If you've got any questions about Game Day Squad, any starts, whatever throughout, feel free to drop them in the comments and we'll be doing our thing as per usual. But what about yourself, mate? How did you perform over round 2?
Yeah, well, people that know in the AFL fantasy circles, I had Tom Stewart in my team, and unfortunately, it was no different in Game Day Squad. I put Tom Stewart in with the matchup. And, he obviously got injured very early in the game. So that was a bullet for me that I had. And that really sort of stunted what could have been a good week. So I finished 29th in starter. And you sort of you add, let's say, 100 points on that. I'm finishing, top 10 for the week, which was disappointing. So I had a good week outside of that. Evening like Classic as well, finished 27th. You add the 100 or so points, another top 10 finish. Challenger ended up finishing 22nd for the week. Would have finished maybe around the top 15 sort of marker, and then Champion. Obviously, I'm a fair bit away from those top guys. So could have been a massive week. Could have been it lost across 3 competitions to take pretty seriously, having some good scores, some good rewards, but unfortunately not to be with the Tom Stewart thing. But we're still okay though. What starter? I think I'm ranked 20 points behind you. I reckon. I think you're 18th for the season. I'm 25th, but I'm only 23 points behind you. So we're pretty tight. Nice. And that Tom Stewart thing's probably a big reason why I'm not quite in the top 20. But that's okay, because guess what happened to Game Day Squad? You can reset your team and you can do it all again. So looking forward to round 3, hopefully being a lot better than what round 2 was. So let's get stuck straight into the games. So we've got pretty much from just over 24 hours time from when we're recording, we've got Thursday night footy, once again, Essendon and Port Adelaide. So we do have the teams for that one. Obviously, the other games we don't as of yet. So Essendon bringing Jordan Ridley and Sardell Hawley making his debut. And then Archie Perkins out injured, along with Elijah Sardis, who's out injured. So not really any Game Day Squad relevance there. And Port Adelaide, Savharati Galea, Ivan Soldo and Tom Cochrane come into the side for his debut. Lockie Jones, Ryan Burton and Jack Lukosius all out injured. I guess if you were looking at starting a Jordan Sweet in Game Day Squad, don't know if there would be too many, but if you were, Ivan Soldo's in, so that means that is a bit of a dual ruck setup, so you wouldn't be looking at him this week. Tom, who are you keen on in this, or keen to fade on in this game?
Yeah, look, Thursdays have really been nasty to me to start this year, and a lot of my mistakes that I've been making in the rounds are on Thursday night footy, so I'm a little hesitant. But I'm going to trust my gut here. I'm going to go with someone who I was fortunate enough to meet at Gather Round last year. It's Zachy Merritt. He is just really rock solid. He never really goes too low. He just has his role. He plays it so well. And he's one of the best performing mids, not only for last year, but to start this year. So set and forget for me most rounds, and this will be no different, although I'm a little scared about Thursday night footy, as mentioned.
Exactly. Hopefully Thursday night footy can treat you a little bit better this week. We'll go through
fantasy-wise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll go through obviously our squads later on, but Zach Merritt currently is not sitting in my side. I think there are a fair few midfielders that got good matchups this week. So we're going to see. I don't know if I wouldn't say I'm keen to fade him per se, but I think there's a couple other guys I do prefer at the moment. Can always change. There's not, I guess it's funny because Thursday night games this season so far have not really been fantasy relevant in terms of like players are really looking at putting into a Game Day Squad. But the one guy that I've had locked into my squad the first 2 weeks, and this week will be no different. It's Connor Rozee. He was fantastic last week. 175 game day squad points is massive. I think that was second to only Jack McRae, who had the biggest score. Actually, no, didn't by 3 points, actually. Sorry. So Connor Rozee got, I believe, the highest score last week. So he was massive against Richmond. Obviously, the gravy matchup, but I think this Essendon matchup's another good one. We saw what Jordan Dawson, Matt Crouch, even a Ben Keys did to Essendon last week, all going over, well over 140 points in game day squad. So, really keen on Connor Rozee, and I think that he'll once again have a good game. Maybe Sam Durham maybe goes to him, but I think he'll be fine nonetheless.
Second highest average in game day squad at the moment for mids with 154. So, great shout.
Yeah, 2 points behind. I would say my boy, but it's almost our boy because I know you're a big fan of Jordan Dawson as well. Moving over to the Friday night game, bit more fantasy relevance, I guess, with this one being Carlton and the Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium. Should be a good game, this one. Obviously, Dogs came off a close loss last week. Carlton yet to win this year, so should be a cracking game. Who are you keen on or keen to fade in this game, Tom?
Going to go keen on, and I'm going to not talk about any of the mids, although there are a lot of good fantasy mids in this game. I'm going to talk about Bailey Dale. He's been one of those real bright spots to start this year down in the defence, and he has still, presumably, I'm pretty sure Bont's definitely at Trelaw. I don't think he'll be playing either. So we've got those two superstars.
Trelaw's had another setback as well, so he's probably going to be at least another probably 4, 5, 6 weeks on the sidelines. Bont, I think, maybe 2 or 3, maybe.
I spoke about sort of they need ball winners. They need people to use the ball, and Bailey Dale's just going to have to continue to lift his game. He's averaging 125 over the season. He's had a really fantastic start. Hasn't gone below 120, I think, to start his campaign. So, yeah, he's been really great, and he's someone I'm going to be starting for sure. Get him in the squad.
Yep, I like it. Yeah, here. So Bont 3 to 5, and Trelaw is 4 to 6 on the injury report, and even Jason Johannesson is 3 to 5 away as well. So we'll be keeping an eye on when those guys are back. Exactly. For me, I don't actually, and I said fantasy relevance for this game. I don't have any players in my side from this game. So so I said fantasy relevance, but I've got no one in my squad at all. So, but I guess there's probably 2 players I don't mind, and I would be. I've got actually. I'll say one of them because I got one of them in my champion squad, and that's Tom Liberatore. So with the fact that those other 2 guys are out in a Bont and Trelaw, Libba's been fantastic to start the season. So he's obviously had to pick up all the slack that Bont and Trelaw would normally have as well. And over the first couple of games, Libba has averaged. I'm just getting his average. So he's averaged 124.5 game day squad points. I've got a platinum in my champion squad, so he's averaging 161.9. So his 2 games so far this year, 121 to 128 game day squad points. So getting it done. If you're getting 120s, you're pretty happy with that in game day squad, even though we've got a few other guys going well over 140. But yeah, Libba, I think Carlton, it's obviously can sometimes be a bit of a tough matchup, but I think with the other guys out, you're not tagging Libba, I don't think. Like Hewitt could go head-to-head with like a Libba, but I think that Ed Richards is arguably the guy they're probably going to want to shut down more than a Libba. So I think Libba will do his thing and be pretty good. I also don't mind a Sam Walsh in this game as well. I think Walsh has started to look a little bit better last week. Not a lot of marks, but I think that the fact this game is under the roof is this under the roof again? I think I said on the roof. Yeah, back-to-back games at Marvel. I think that he could get some plus 7s in game day squad. A few marks there and go quite well. So I don't mind those 2. Moving to Saturday, the first game being Melbourne and Gold Coast at the MCG as well. Can you believe that the first 4 games around are at Melbourne? So it's a bit of a mini gather round over the first sort of 2 days. But who are you keen on or keen to fade from this game?
Yeah, keen on. I'm going to go with someone from the Suns, Noah Anderson. Only played 1 game, very small sample size. And for him, he also played against West Coast, which we do know is one of the better matchups to have in terms of mids for fantasy, at least over the past year or 2. But I'm not looking at that too much. I think that Noah Anderson's in for a huge year, and I think this is going to be a really good matchup for him. I just was having a look today about some of the other games and some of the other players that have played the Ds and who have played well, and you saw Tommy Powell do really well last round. Harry Sheasel in the middle do really well last round. There's a lot of good inside ball winners who are playing well, and Noah Anderson's just going to sort of fit that mold as well. So in terms of matchup and also form, Noah Anderson's a great shout to get starting, and I will be starting him in this round.
Yeah, I'm also on the Noah Anderson train as well. And if he puts up another good score, I think if he puts up another good score, that's 2 away games to start the season with 2 big scores. That's what I'll be looking at as well, because obviously the knock on him has been his scoring away from home. If he can put up back-to-back good scores away from home, that'll be a really good tick in his box and make a lot more people more confident in starting him regardless of where he's playing in Australia.
Yeah, true.
The guy I'm keen on in this game as well, he's back. Clayton Oliver, he's back. He looks good. 133 GameDay Squad points last week, and I know it brings a bit of a tear to our eye that and a happy tear that he's back as well. So he was great. I know Melbourne lost last week, but 36 disposals, 5 marks, only 2 tackles. So there's even more room for even more points to be had there for Clayton Oliver. Gold Coast, a good matchup for mids. I just think that the way Clayton, it's not like, and I'm not saying Clayton Oliver's back to the 140, 150 sort of GameDay Squad point Clayton Oliver, whatever, right?
Yeah.
He's worked slowly just getting back into form. But in terms of being confident in starting him in my GameDay Squad side, he's back. So I'm really happy to be putting him into my squad for the week. I didn't want to say I'm keen to fade Max Gawn because I think he's too proud a player. I think he knows he was poor last week. There was obviously reasons outside of footy that were for that. I think even though it's a tough matchup, I still think he could have a good score. So if you were keen on him at the MCG, where he loves playing, I think you could start him even in a tough matchup. But I do think there are a couple of other good ruck options for us this week. Moving over to St Kilda and Richmond at Marvel. So the fourth of the 4 games in a row in Melbourne. Should be a cracking game, this one. Be interesting to see how St Kilda goes after their win last week. And can Richmond maybe even get their second win of the season? Who knows? But who have you got from, who are you keen on, or who are you keen to fade from this game? Because I think this could be a points fest.
Yeah, this could be a points fest, but it is also a little sort of nerve-wracking to pick the player. But I'm going to stick with someone who is in the top 3 ranked defenders right now. It was very hard. I think you could go with either of the Saints pair. I'll be honest with you. I think I'm starting both. But Isaiah, Wanganeen, and Millera in particular, I'm very, very keen to see how he goes this round. I think he's in for a really big week. He's going to, get those kick ball, I think the mark, the kick combination. We love that. But he's gone 119, 136, and he's averaging 20 kicks per game at the moment. And in a matchup where we're looking at this being, a little better versus Richmond, maybe to have a little bit more ball control. And we saw what they did last round, as you mentioned. Wanganeen Millera could be in for an absolute day. And he is definitely not the type of player that's going to slow down either. Like if they've got their foot on the gas and they're going hard in the 4th quarter, he's still going to be continuing to show up and he's going to want the pill still. He won't rest. He'll just keep running until that game is done. So I think that gives me a bit more confidence in starting Millera. And yeah, what a great start he's had. And again, he's going to dominate in this matchup.
Yeah, exactly. The guy that I'm keen on in this game, he returned. Actually, no, hang on. I'm going to. I want to go one of these guys lock of the week, which I guess we'll touch, because before the pod we talked about should we do lock of the week or fade of the week during the games. I think I'm still deciding who my fade of the week is. So I reckon Tom will save those for once we've gone through all the games. I reckon.
Yeah.
But so one of these guys I'm going to go for my lock of the week, I think, and one of them I'll just talk about here. So the guy I'm going to talk about here. In defence, another defender, Jaiden Short, St Kilda, good matchup on paper. St Kilda give out a lot of points to defenders specifically, and I think Jaiden Short, he's been okay. He's gone around. I'll just get up his scores quickly here in GameDay Squad over the first 2 weeks. So averaging 103.5 GameDay Squad points, 101, 106. That's not bad, right? A couple of hundreds from defender. You take that, but there have been tough matchups against Carlton and Port Adelaide. This is his first real easy matchup. The only thing that's a flag with Jaiden Short is the fact that I thought he'd be their main kicking taker, but he's clearly not. He's like 3rd in line. I think it's Ben Miller and Nick Voston that are the 2 guys, and he's like the 3rd guy, which is a little bit concerning. He's missing out on that's like maybe like 16, 20 points a game he's missing out on in GameDay Squad. Yep. So Hopefully can take a few more kick-ins this week. Hopefully it's just been a bit more circumstantial than actual what they're looking at doing, but it's a bit concerning. But I still think regardless, the matchup's great. I don't think the kick-in's really going to concern too much about him being there or not. Moving to the 2 Saturday night games. So we'll start with the game of the round. And, to be fair, these 2 games are fantastic. And I say game of the round, but the other, it's probably disrespectful to the other game. But it is Hawthorn and GWS, who a lot of people have got in their top 4 at the moment in terms of seedings. And they're going head-to-head down at UTAS Stadium on a Saturday night, which is pretty cool. Who are you keen on or keen to fade in this game?
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm only starting 1 player, so I guess there's no other person I could go for start. But let's go fade. Let's talk about someone that maybe I'm not playing this round, and that's going to be James Sicily. James Sicily's always been in and amongst and sort of around that mark of making the top 7 weekly, and I think a little bit, as what you alluded to with Short, maybe also impacts Sicily, is that, they've got Amon and they've got Impey and they've got all these players now who are stepping up a little bit more in sort of that kick-in role. And you're right, that ceiling sort of, or the floor score, if you want to call it, sort of comes down another 10, 15 points per game. And Sicily had a great season last year. He probably hasn't, in terms of fantasy, had the start that he's wanted. His Hawks are bloody flying, don't get me wrong. But for him and him getting the ball, he's probably about that 100, 110 fantasy mark per game. I think it's just time with a lot of really good players in the defense to sit Sicily for a little bit and just watch and wait and see, because I do think he could probably get back into a little bit of better form. But for now, I think it's time to fade him and just sit on that for a little while.
Yeah, agree with that one. As you say, there's not with these 2 teams at the moment, there's probably not a lot of players we've actually got in our squads at the moment. But the one guy that I've got in there this week, Lockie Whitfield, I just think that he's back. So don't forget about him in Game Day Squad. That a lot of people might have forgotten, gone, oh yeah, Giants and Gold Coast players don't even register, but they're back this week. So Lockie Whitfield, then he's got to be back into our squads. He's obviously, Hawthorn aren't a great matchup per se, but down at UTAS Stadium, I think he'll have a good game. I don't necessarily think anyone will go to him. Finn McGuinness hasn't done any jobs. He is playing as a forward. Does he play defensive forward role on a Whitfield? That's a possibility. But I just think that I'd still happy to take it on. I'm happy to put him in there because if he goes well, he goes big. So, and down at Pig
100%.
Park, I think he could go quite well. So that is who I'm keen on that game. Moving over to the other Saturday night game, Brisbane and Geelong, another cracking game. This has obviously been rescheduled from opening round to now, and they escaped Cyclone Alfred. But now that apparently they're going to be in very wet conditions again on Saturday night. So this game was always destined to be in wet and wild conditions, which I think these games normally, the Gabba normally are, Brisbane and Geelong. Who are you keen on or keen to fade this game?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to go with the obvious one in this one. It's Dane Zorko. He just is amazing. He's just so good. I guess the only thing that you'd need to worry about is the weather and how bad it is. And it looks like it's going to be pretty horrendous, as you said, which will definitely impact the play style of someone like Zorko, because he likes to get sort of, nice kicks and hits and through the middle. And he plays a very precise and a cutting game. But so when it's wet and, presumably it's going to be a lot more down the line and it's going to be a lot more, that sort of play. It could be a week to actually fade him. So I know I said it's the obvious one, but this is one you're going to have to think about, because a lot of people will look at his average, 145 points a game. How can you not start someone like Dane Zorko in a round? But you do need to consider the conditions and what it will do to a player and how they play. And someone like Dane Zorko will majorly be impacted by a sloppy, wet game. So proceed with caution is my point. And I think if it continues down this road, it's going to be someone I'll be fading for the round, which sounds ridiculous because he had 155 last round.
Yeah, I think that you pretty much told the whole story. You started off with keen on, and then it went to keep on the weather, and then a potential fade. So it is that sort of watch the weather, see what it's like. He's either, if it's not raining, you're keen on him. If it's raining,
look, it's like 90% going to be a fading from what I've heard.
Yeah, so very, very interesting to see how it goes. For me, I'm also keen to fade someone in this game, and that's going to be Max Holmes. So very similar to what you said. I think that there's 3 factors in this is the reason I'm fading him. So 1, playing Brisbane, very tough matchup as it is. 2, it's at the Gabba, so it's away from home. That's also tough to score as an away player. And then 3, the weather. The weather, obviously, we've talked about if it's raining, which it looks like it is. That's 3 factors where I don't want a part of Max Holmes this week. He might still get 20, 25 touches, but it's not going to sort of combine for a lot of game day squad points because he's not going to get those marks. He might get some extra tackles to maybe sort of counteract that. But yeah, I'm not keen on him in this game too much there.
Yep.
Moving over to Sunday, so talking about the first game here being at Adelaide Oval, which I'll be in attendance for this one. It is the Adelaide Crows taking on North Melbourne. Should be hopeful. I'm hoping for another Crows run. I want it to be a typical Crows thing to do. North Melbourne never won at Adelaide Oval. Crows are flying, and then all of a sudden, Crows do a typical Crows thing and go, you know what? Let's lose and give North Melbourne their first ever win.
You're scarred, Bales. I'm sorry. You're just scarred, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can get the win. But who are you keen on or keen to fade in this game?
Let's go with keen on, and it has to be Caleb Daniel. He's a forward in game day squad. His role,
did you play him last week?
I did.
Because you didn't have him in your original squad, but you must have put him in there.
Oh, maybe then in my classic. Sorry, there's a couple squads, but I definitely played him in my classic squad last round. Maybe not my starter because I like to sort of change it a little bit and not play the exact same squad. But look, had 105 in round 1, but then went and got 140 in round 2. 25 kicks is absurd. The role, it's just the role he's playing, and he's taking kick-ins. He's just got a really good floor. And I feel like 105, when it's all said and done, might be one of his worst performances for the season. I reckon he's going to go on a roll to start this year. He's going to score really big, and we're going to look back and be like, well, for anyone who sort of maybe faded him after the first round thinking 105 was a little scary, they're going to regret that big time. So get Caleb Daniel in. And I think it's for good reason because Crows are going to score a lot of goals, but also it's going to be a lot of points as well. And Caleb Daniel's going to be taking the kick-ins for a lot of those. So,
yeah, I like that. You said Den, and then you also said Worser, which was interesting. Not worse. It was just worse. I love it though. I love it. A few different words flying around there. Player that I am keen on in this game. I'm going to go with. I'm trying to stay away from Dawson just because he's in my squad. I'm not saying anything like that, but I don't want to say every episode I'm keen on Jordan Dawson. Keen on Jordan Dawson.
Yeah. Hit us with someone else then.
Yeah, everyone's just going to go, Bales, we know you're keen on Jordan Dawson. You don't have to tell us, which I think is better to tell you someone that I'm keen on that isn't always talked about on this game. So I'm going to go to the other guy that I'm also really keen on, talk about a lot on this show, which is Isaac Rankin in the forward line. So a lot of people are going to look at that score from last week in Game Day Squad and go 85 points. Okay, he had one good game round 1, but I'm not going to look at it because he scored an 80. He had 85 points in 2.5 quarters. So he got subbed out in the midway through the third quarter after kicking probably is the early contender for goal of the year. So we'll see if that stays there. But 85 when he was going well, full game, he would have gone probably similar to that 120, 125 marker again. Another good matchup against North Melbourne at home. I don't know if there's anyone necessarily that would stop him either from North Melbourne. Like Will Phillips, if he's there, does he go to a Dawson? I think Dawson will be too big and strong for a goal like Phillips. But Isaac Rankin, I expect to have another good game. Might kick a couple of goals like he always does, get plenty of the ball. So I'm keen on him in this game. Moving on to the final game. So we've only got the 8 games this week, obviously with Collingwood and Sydney on the bye. So I should have mentioned this obviously earlier, but if you've got anyone of like a Nick Dacos or a Matt Roberts or anyone like that, don't have them in your squads this week because they are not playing. They are on bye. Final game, though, West Coast and Freo in the Western Derby there. So who are you keen on or keen to fade from this game?
I'm going to go... So my lock of the round is actually in this game. So maybe I'll save who that is. Let's go a fade. I'm going to stick with... Let's go Duggan. I don't know if Duggan's going to... He really hasn't had the start to the year. I think he finished 7th or 8th last year in terms of scoring out of defenders. But in a round where I think a lot of defenders are going to perform really well, you sort of alluded to it before, Bales, I just think it's probably one to sit him out. There's going to be other points in the season where you're going to want to get Duggan in, But this sort of game with the stakes and just traditionally how it's played, I don't think this is going to be one of those Duggan rounds where he goes nuts and gets a lot of easy pill around the back. I think it's going to be a lot of contested footy, and there's going to be a lot of biff in this one. You've seen these games before, so get ready for a very hard and well-fought contest, irrespective of score, and just that play style is not going to suit someone like Duggan, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I hope that this isn't your lock of the round because I'm keen on this guy as well. He's not a forward, is he? Is he your lock? Or is he
beautiful? He's not, so go for it.
Okay, cool. Luke Jackson is who I'm keen on. And this is obviously barring that they don't bring Liam Reedy back in, but I don't think they will because I think Jackson played well last week against Sydney. We know what he can do when he's a solo ruck, right? He gets around the ground. He's gone back-to-back tons as well. So I know he's sharing with Reedy in the first game, but he still scored 105 GameDay Squad points, and last week scored 115 in what's a tough matchup against Sydney. So I think against West Coast don't really know who their main ruck is. Is it Bailey Williams? Is it Matt Flynn? Is it Archer Reed? Who is it? Yeah. We don't know. But is it Bailey Williams came in last week? So I'll just assume it's going to be him. But I think Luke Jackson can go well again. I'm pretty keen on him in my forward line this week.
Sure.
So yeah, keen to plug him in there. Got a question here as well. So if you guys do have any Game Day Squad related questions, we'll answer a couple of those as well. If you guys got any of them, we'll do our lock and fade of the weeks as well. We got one here from Braden Wooden. I do like this one. What about Riley Thilthorpe as a bit of a pod option in the forward line? So he's been really good to start obviously along with the Crows, but so he has gone in terms of Game Day Squad points, averaging he's gone 98 and 110 in his 2 games. Another good matchup here, Tom. Could you plug Thilthorpe in your forward line this week?
I'm actually going to say no, and not because of Thilthorpe. I actually think it's going to be a tough. The Kangas are looking really good, and they've got a lot of their key defenders back, and and I know times last year they struggled a lot with that, with real big power forwards who can take contested grabs, and Thilthorpe sort of fits that mold. And not only that, he's going to push up the ground, and he's very versatile, and it plays into him. But with Comben and a couple of the others, I think they do a good job of not shutting him down, but sort of keeping him at bay at times. And I don't see sort of an explosive performance from Thilthorpe in this one. I see it being probably a round where he should kick a goal. He's very good and very tidy around it. But yeah, I don't know if I'd be starting him. I'd maybe look at some other pods to go. Maybe, yeah. I don't know. What's your thoughts, Bales? Would you go?
I like him as a pod. I do this week against North. Okay. I think back at home as well, if the Crows continue on their form, there's going to be some goals for the Thil Seeker, as they like to call him as well. So I've got him in my champion squad, obviously, because that's a bit one where I don't really have much to lose. So I've got a diamond one of him, so I'm happy to plug him in there and hope that he somehow goes maybe 200 and gets me some of those points maybe that I can catch up. So I like him. Maybe don't plug him in all your squads if you've got multiple. If you do start a classic challenger or you do a couple, maybe put him in one of them. But I don't mind having a dabble this week against North Melbourne. But he's definitely not like a top 5 forward or 6 forward or anything like that. But if you want a bit of a pod and someone that might be able to win you the week, he could be someone that you could consider. Cool. We'll go into our locks and fades of the week. So we'll start with our locks of the week. So Tom, I'll go to you first this one. Who is your lock of the week?
Let's head straight back to the game we just spoke of. Let's talk about a midfielder who, to start this season, has had 96 fantasy points and 101 fantasy points. I'm talking about Caleb Sarong. I think he's in for a monster outing on Sunday, and it's going to be good. Eagles. He's going to bring us home really strong. Hopefully, if you start him, that's the case. But, probably a disappointing start. Had the tag last round as well, but I thought there were some really solid signs with even him getting tagged and being thrown into the forward line. And, his game was very disrupted. He still nearly got to the 100-point mark. And Brayshaw hasn't really been blowing the park out of the water either. And I feel like this just, again, I spoke about the play style and the contested footy, and there might not be many people better than Caleb Sarong when it's that sort of game. So he's going to be in the guts, in the middle. He's going to be bumping off tackles, making a ton of them himself and getting his hands on the footy. So Caleb Sarong is my lock of the round. Tasty matchup, very good player. And maybe in a time where others are looking at his score and thinking it's time to set and stop playing Caleb Sarong, I think this is where you double down and you go, Caleb Sarong's going to dominate in this one. I've got to get him in my mids and hopefully get the jump on some other coaches.
Yeah. So there was 3 players I was looking at going around to. I'm like, who am I going to go my lock of the week? And I've decided on one, and I think he's the clear best one of the 3. Jack Macrae is my lock of the week. Up against Richmond, juicy matchup. He was obviously fantastic last week, and I saw a tweet, I think it was from Jaiden from FTTV, was saying about how Bevo probably doesn't get enough criticism for getting rid of Jack Macrae, Bailey Smith, and Josh Dunkley, because you've got Bailey Smith, who's looking like a really, really good pickup, and for not much to Geelong. Josh Dunkley went to Brisbane. Josh Dunkley went to Brisbane as a premiership player, and he started on fire, obviously, this year as well. And then Jack Macrae, who last week was just absolutely incredible against Geelong under the roof. So he ended up scoring 172 GameDay Squad points, the second highest score of the round. 35 touches, 8 marks, 10 tackles, like just filling up all the stat lines. We love to see it. It's been a few years since we've seen this Jack Macrae, and I think that it could be a big year for him, averaging over 148 fantasy points. So he is my lock of the week in a good matchup. The other 2 that I did like as well, that I probably could have mentioned in our game previews, but Josh Dunkley against Geelong, I like him this week. I think a lot of tackles, if it's wet, could be a play. And then Ryan Marshall, we saw him return last week in good form. Looks good. Richmond, great matchup for Rux, and he's someone I'm pretty keen on as well. So I'm sure I'll chat about those 2 in a bit when we get into our squads. Who's your fade of the week?
It's going to be a tough one because I think last round we both had this player in, and it was more because of a matchup and we're streaming them through. But I wouldn't look at last score and think, okay, got to get him in the squad again. And it's going to be Lachie Neale from the Lions. We spoke about potentially some of the issues that game might already have. But irrespective, he had 46 in round 1, 144 in round 2. And I know, Bales, you were banging the drum that he is going to bounce back in a big way. And that was your lock of the round. And what a lock of the round it was. He was one of the best performing mids. So if you followed Bales and you went down there, shout him out. Thanks, Bales. We appreciate you. But this round in particular, I think it's time to put him back on the bench and then maybe just wait for a better matchup or some better conditions to play him. So don't get sucked into the round score and the form and everything like that. Just look at some other factors. There's a lot of great options this round for midfield, and some players we haven't even mentioned as well, like Tom Green's coming back. And maybe people are off him. Is it time to get back on Tommy Green? And
why did you have to do it?
Sorry.
That was my fade. That was my fade of the week.
Your fade? Oh, yeah. Great. Well,
so I'll talk about him in a sec.
Take it away from here. But yeah, Lachie Neale, I wouldn't be starting him this round. It's time to sit him down. But take it away, Bales.
In my head, I could hear you about to list off the names. I'm like, don't say Tom Green. And he said Tom Green. I'm like, God damn it.
So, I'm big on Tom Green, though. So I want to hear your why you're not.
But just before I do touch on Tom Green, though, Lachie Neale, obviously, I like the fade as well. And the fact that Mark O'Connor will go to him, I don't think there's much doubt about that at all. Mark O'Connor normally goes to Lachie Neale when these 2 teams play. So I would be staying away from the tag, the conditions. Like Geelong is a good matchup for mids, but the conditions and the tag for me is why. And there's a lot of good mids with good matchups this week, so I'm fading him. But Tom Green is my fade of the week this week. So a lot of people would have seen that he obviously returned just before the bye, or before their bye in round 1 against Melbourne. Had a big last quarter there, and he did end up scoring a pretty solid 121 GameDay Squad points. But that had I think it was like a 45, 50 plus point last quarter from him. So that's the reason I'm fading him, though, is I think most people that have owned Tom Green in any other format or have played him in GameDay Squad against Giants know that against Hawks, Connor Nash sits next to Tom Green and does a job on him each and every time. So the reason for that is because Connor Nash is a taller guy, and he matches up well physically with the Tom Green. So I expect him to go head-to-head with him and shut him down to a lower score. Okay, Tom Green might still ton up, but I don't think it's going to be a ceiling score. So I don't think you're going to be missing out on any points. And there's also a chance if some people out there do start him, because I think people will see Tom Green off bye. Yep, cool, he got 100. He's had a game to warm in, another week break. He'll be back. I'd be tempering expectations and fading him this week because of the tag there. People would argue, would Finn Callaghan be the guy to get the tag because of how he started the year? I still think Connor Nash matches up a lot better with a Tom Green. There is every chance he tags Finn Callaghan instead, but I just think that it would be a Connor Nash going to a Tom Green. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I'd be fading Tom Green regardless this week because Hawthorn is also a tough matchup.
They are tough,
let's get into our squads and show you guys who's in our starter squads for round 3. So Tom's screen will be on the board. So take it away, Tom. Let the people know some of your squad picks and why you've gone with some of these players.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go on the forward line. Like we spoke about a lot of the players. Caleb Daniels there. Smith, as you mentioned, what a great start he's had. Jackson as well, one of your, got to start him. I know we spoke about that game. Rankin, I'm not scared again. He subbed out. He was dominated.
That's
he
his
was
rest.
playing so well. Exactly. So, they're going to bring him off. Don't look at that score and think anything else. He's a fantastic option. Jason Horne-Francis as well probably hasn't had the start to the year that we maybe all expected. We sort of thought as a midfielder and with Butters out that he was going to explode, I guess, into this season. We haven't seen it yet, but will we see it this Thursday or tomorrow night? I'm hoping so. I've gone the big dynamic duo in the rucks, Cherry and Marshall. Marshall is officially back. I love that you mentioned it because I didn't mention it. I mentioned Wanganeen Millera, but he's looked so good. I just don't understand how he went from the first game looking like he could barely run and it was like everything in the world wrong with him to just a week later looking like one of the best players in the entire competition again. That blew my mind.
Yeah, he was great. He was fantastic. But with Jason Horne-Francis, I guess obviously it's been a frustrating start for everyone that's got him in their squads. But the thing is, he's that sort of player that you take him out of your squad and you'll put a 130 on your head. Like I do worry that he'll go big in a game where you don't have him. And the positive thing with team sheets was I saw Lukosius go down. Obviously, we all saw that last week. Fractured kneecap. How about that? That's obviously a terrible injury. Hopefully, he's back soon for Port. But with him out, people thought, oh, here we go. Like he's out. That means they're going to have to play Horne-Francis more forward. But Soldo's come in. So Soldo's in there and they're going to have a ruck there. So I don't know if he's necessarily going to rest as much forward. Radigali is in the side as well. I'd imagine, though, he plays in defence just because of the fact that Jones and Burton are both out. So, and then whether Tom Cochrane plays, I don't even know. So Tom Cochrane's a midfielder anyway, so it doesn't actually matter too much. But, I think Horne-Francis, he played a bit more forward. I think they had a little bit more to do with the matchup as well, like the Richmond matchup. They didn't need him in the midfield. I think, against Essendon, away from home, Essendon going to be breathing fire just with the amount of talk that they've had this week in all the news and stuff like that. I think they'll need Horne-Francis in the midfield a lot more, and I think he'll go a bit better. Might cop some attention, but I think he'll be fine. Anyone else you want to touch on?
A lot of the players have already spoken about in there. Definitely just be cautious of that Geelong and Brisbane game. Keep an eye on it. But, yeah, it's not looking good. But we're a couple of days out, and knowing Brisbane/Gold Coast weather being here now, it can change in a heartbeat, and you never know. It might be bloody 35 and sunny by the time it's Saturday. So, yeah, just keep your eyes peeled. Yeah,
exactly. What are your thoughts on Zorko? So, like, have you got a pivot guy that you're looking to plug in if you don't play Zorko? Because obviously he's on the Saturday night. So you've got the games you've got. So you've obviously got the game at the same time, the Hawthorn GWS. Then you've got Adelaide, North Melbourne, West Coast, and Freo players. Anyone there that you'd be happy to plug in if you take him out?
So you're talking about after the fact, right? So we're going to have to go games after. I would maybe say you'd look at the Freo game and maybe think of a Clark or a Ryan and just take a bit of a punt. Like maybe not the greatest matchup in them. Like it's not a bad matchup, don't get me wrong. But maybe you go like a Clark or something like that. And it's a pretty good substitute. And both of them were all-stars last year, so finished within the top 7 scoring defenders in GameDay Squad because they played a lot of games and they scored a lot of points. So definitely don't sleep on the fact. But if I had to pick one out of Ryan and Clark, I'm going Clark. I think he's looked a little bit better to start this year and probably has a little bit more upside at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, so I'll put my squad up here in a sec, but I think the guy I'd pivot to would be, I'll be looking at maybe a Carl Amon. Giants isn't a great matchup, but he's at UTAS, so he could go okay. Giants will probably score, like he'd be in their forward 50 a lot, so there should be a bit of ball back there for Amon. Maybe it's not a ceiling play with a tougher matchup, but at the end of the day, he might score more than Zorko in the wet, but we'll have to see what happens with that one. So we'll turn our attention to my squad. So a couple of little changes in there as well, but the defense is fairly similar. The only difference is being I've got Short over Dale for the matchup, and I've gone Jordan Clark over Luke Ryan So I've made that call. So I could always pivot to a Luke
Nice.
Ryan as well from Zorko. Midfield is very similar to what I've had for a bit of the season. So like Dawson, Rosie, Dunkley have been in there, I believe, every week. Maybe Dunkley missed round 1, but every other game they've been there. Noah Anderson obviously missed last week, but he's been in my squad every time he's played. And then Clayton Oliver for the first time this season is in my squad. I think the matchup against Gold Coast is good. At the MCG, Melbourne need to respond. I actually think Melbourne could win this game. I think I've tipped Melbourne at the moment, but Gold Coast, obviously great performance against West Coast, could win. So, by no means am I saying Melbourne are a lock to win or anything like that, but I think Oliver has a good game. And Caleb Strong, as you mentioned, Tristan Cherry and Marshall are there. And then McRae, Smith, Daniel Jackson, Rankin, Horn, France. And I've got Dylan Moore on the bench. Obviously, a few guys have got better matchups this week. I just think Dylan Moore's too good a player to have 2 games in a row where he goes sub 60? Did he go like 50 something in game day squad last week?
57.
Yeah. So I was going to say sub 60. So I was pretty much bang on then. I think down at UTAS though, I think he'll be fine. I think he'll get involved. I'm pretty sure last time that they played Gold Coast, he actually had GWS. I think Dylan Moore actually had a pretty nice game from memory. So I'm going to go and have a look here. So he scored, what's that? 101 game day squad points against Giants last time. But then when they played at UTAS early in the season, Dylan Moore scored another 90-plus score. So it's not a high ceiling play. I could go for a guy that's got a bit more ceiling this week, but I think he's fairly safe there. We do have a couple of questions here before we do wrap up as well. So Jack Main has got this question here. So he's saying, what about Toby Green as a potential option? And then he also adds Neil Bullen and Brian Myers as options. So I think before we touch on the other two, I think Brian Myers will be crossing off. Brisbane, tough matchup, up at the Gabba and wet weather. Definitely not conditions for someone like Brian Myers. But Toby Green and Alex Neil Bullen, Tom, any of those guys been names that you've considered putting into your forward line?
For sure. And I'm going to I'll go with one and maybe you can give a little bit of insight to the other and why you'd want to start them. But Toby Green has been majorly flying under the radar, I think, for game day squad coaches to start this year. He's had scores of 97 and 133. I feel like this preseason, we spoke about Daniels a lot as a GWS forward and thinking, he had a really good season last year. He had more of an average in terms of score. He got more of the ball and maybe Green was starting to fall off that little bit, but as the captain does, he has started this year fantastic. He looks great again. He had 16 kicks last game. And a lot of the time, I feel like the mark for forwards and what you want from them is like 15 kicks or 15 disposals, let's call it, and about a goal. And if they can get that sort of combination going between the two, you're already looking at nearly about 80 to 90 fantasy points as is. And then anything extra on top, and you're going to have some marks in there as their forwards and just sort of how they play. You're looking at a really good start. So I think, unlike last year, his floor is definitely rising, and we've seen him even go inside the guts a little bit as well when they need some help in winning the clearance, and when the Giants are a little bit undermanned. And so there's upside not only because of his role playing forward, but also what might happen in the game and in terms of the game script. And he may go into the guts and get some clearances and some easy points like that. So I haven't got him in at the moment, but there's a really good chance that I second guess myself. He was one of the players I essentially cut, and I was almost thinking about playing him over Horn Francis. So I was that close to starting him, and I might just by the time the round comes along. So Toby Green is a great shout, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love it, Jack, as well. Yeah, I'm just looking here in the last quarter against Melbourne. So he scored 58 game day squad points, played 100% midfield times, had the most CBAs on the ground with 5, and they ended up coming from behind to win that game. So I think he'll be used a bit more on the guts than what he was last year. Poor year by Toby Green standards last year. I think he'll respond with a better year this year. Obviously, being the captain, Giants should have probably played off in the grand final last year, or at least got to did they get knocked down? They got knocked down in straight sets, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Did they? Yes, they did. Yeah, they lost to lost to Brisbane when they probably should have won that game. So, I think as a captain, and he kicked 3 goals, 3 in that game as well against Melbourne. That could have been a lot bigger. Could have been a lot bigger scoring game day squad. So, he's one that I've considered with Dylan Moore switching on the bench to Toby Green, and Josh Simpkin being the other one. Those 3 are probably in the mix. I could definitely swap there. In terms of Alex Neil Bullen, I don't think I'd play him great. He's been a great pickup for the Crows. I think he'll be arguably the best of the three of him, Peatling, and Cumming in terms of structural for the Crows. But in terms of a fantasy option, I don't think so. 91 and 99 is great scores. And he's a guy that I do, he can score well. And I know people that do like AFL fantasy drafts and stuff like that. He's a good player to pick because he's a really solid guy to get. I just don't know if he's got the ceiling that we want in Game Day Squad. Like Toby Green can go big. Yeah. Dylan Moore can go big. Josh Simpkin can go big. All the guys that we're considering as like our 5th, 6th, 7th forward can all go big. I just don't know if Neil Bullen has got that 120, 130 ceiling in the Crows with all the options that they've got. But if you're keen on him, I don't know if I'll talk you out of it. Good matchup again this week. So if you are keen, you could go. He's averaging, as I said, averaging 95 for the season. And as I said, Brian Myers, I just wouldn't be looking at this week with the matchup, the weather, and being up at the Gabba. Cool. That will wrap us up for the round 3 preview show. So, Tom, where can the people find you across the socials? Where can they sign up at Game Day Squad? And anything else you want? Any final thoughts as we enter round 3?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. So you can find me on X at TommyGDS or follow any of the Game Day Squad socials. If you are still interested, we're a round-to-round fantasy platform. Of course, we have seasonal competitions, but we focus on each round with unlimited subs. So you can start today, you can get on board, start playing, and start competing from day one for the best prize money in all of fantasy sports at Game Day Squad. And it's free to enter, it's free to win. So if you haven't, make sure you do it. You can use the BAILSDT creator code when you sign up as well to get some extra goodies on top. But look, the best of luck. Make sure you're staying on top of everything. Lineups will drop tomorrow, of course, at 5:30, and that's always a big indicator of maybe some players that you'll either start due to some players being out or maybe sit due to some scenarios as well. So, yeah, if you need any help with Game Day Squad, sorry, I should have mentioned, reach out on socials. I'm more than happy to help. Just flick a message to any of the Game Day Squad social media accounts, and we'll get back to you from there.
Yeah, beautiful. And also for... We haven't said the first 2 weeks yet, but obviously you and Cal obviously sit down on a Thursday night, obviously around the team sort of dropping and stuff, obviously. So make sure you guys go tune into the Game Day Squad YouTube channel as well. If you want more questions answered, if you want that's where they can obviously help you out as well. And then they can give you like the email address to reach out and everything like that. If you want all previews and stuff, head over to there. I believe that starts at 5 p.m. Queensland time, so 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Perth, if I'm correct.
5:45 Queensland time, so just about 6.
5:45. So that's 6:45 Eastern, 3:45 Perth time. So yeah, there you go. So I was a little bit off, but we're close enough anyway. That's the time there. So make sure you guys go and check that out there. You can find me at BAILSDT, and you can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans on Twitter as well. And as Tom said, if you haven't signed up to Game Day Squad yet, I should have said it at the very beginning of the episode. But yeah, make sure you use the code BAILSDT at sign up, and you get 3 of the 9 player common packs absolutely free using that code at sign up. There's $21 of value, and you get 27 players to put into your Game Day Squad club, and you can put them into your starter, classic, or if you may even pull a diamond or platinum or 2. You can put them into maybe a challenger squad as well and start dabbling in more competitions with more prizes on offer for you. So use that code BAILSDT at sign up. And final thoughts for me. Yeah, just make sure you stay obviously, is it vigilant? Yeah, I was about to say vigilant, but it's vigilant. Make sure you stay vigilant with all the teams and news and stuff like that. Obviously, a few people might have missed the Bailey Smith news and didn't take him out of their squad in time. So just make sure you're staying on top of that. And also the weather as well. I don't think that gets talked enough, actually, the weather. People got to stay on top of the weather. If it's raining and it's not suitable for like a halfback like a Zorko we talked about, or a Max Holmes, and if Tom Stewart plays this week, I wouldn't be starting him anyway. But with the weather, obviously, definitely not starting any of those 3. Then take them out, plug someone else in who's got a better matchup or has better conditions, and sort of do that, because that might gain you some extra points as well. So cool. Thanks, guys, for tuning in as always, and we'll catch you guys same time, same place next Wednesday, chatting about round 4. Good luck for round 3. Hopefully, you guys have some good rounds and can get some good ranks, some good prizes, and have some big scores from all of your fantasy stars. So we'll catch you guys next week. Have a good weekend. We'll catch you guys then. See ya.
See you, everyone.